yellow box.
Welcome to Bring Out Your Geek, episode 44, and we are talking walking comics. Issues 21 to 24, right?
That's, yes.
Is that what we just said?
It's exactly. We have continued to work on the slicing, but 21 through 24 is what we'll probably do today, I think.
Yeah, ran a little long. We keep running long, so we're cutting the material back, hoping we can have a decent time for you guys, so you don't get bored and turn us off.
It's a goal.
All right, I'm Jeans. That's Kelly, and we left off with the guys finding the generator in the prison.
Big old generator, too.
Yeah, big damn generator, and Alan getting bit.
Yes, mid-mope. Mid-mope, yeah. Alan got bit.
And by some writhing meat on the floor. It wasn't even like a full-fledged attack. He just wasn't paying attention to where he was stepping.
It wasn't a walker, it wasn't a crawler, it was a rug. He got bit by a rug. But...
So when we start out 21, he just keeps yelling and screaming that he's a dead man. That's his mantra for like the first few pages.
Which, pretty big incentive for everybody to want to save him. But
yeah.
And so Rick comes up with an idea.
Yes, he does. You want to say what that idea is?
To cut his leg off. Make the bad stuff go away by cutting the leg off.
And he does it in 6 very neat, swift chops.
Yeah, it was just. Oh. Yeah, it was not surgical. And no, he didn't have a whole lot of support either with the crew.
It was 6 frames of thunk, thunk, thunk. And Herschel comes along at this point after they've severed the man's leg. And
guys.
Hey, what's up? Looking like somebody, I don't know, drew his head facing to the back of his body. I don't know if you noticed that on the frame at all, but the way that his clothes are situated and stuff, it just looks like his head is 180 in the wrong direction.
I missed that. I'll have to go back. I had missed that look.
It's sort of weird. It caught me off guard. I'm like, is his body on wrong? Anyway.
Yeah. Herschel's he's not a fashion plate, I think. But
no.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. But I could see Herschel's garb being worn either direction. I think that it probably has that flexibility, but I could be wrong.
Anything's possible. And he decides that the best way to keep Alan from bleeding to death is to lop off a bunch of Axel's hair and stick it on the stump.
Yeah, and there's like a tourniquet involved, and he didn't really ask Axel. Axel's kind of a big guy in the comic, and I don't know if you go about cutting a man with long hair's hair like that without giving him some advance notice. But Herschel didn't.
Yeah, Axel looks like a big kind of burly biker dude type. And he's got sort of long, flowing white locks, and he's a little bit older, and just grab like a section here and just stick it on there, make it stop bleeding.
Because that's what you do on the farm, I guess.
Well, I don't know, and maybe if we're lucky, Andrea will call a big meeting and make a big ado about getting him a haircut or something. I don't know.
Yeah, she'll open up a little styling salon. That'll be.
I'm still bitter over that whole opening of that comic where we built up to her doing something incredible in the cafeteria to find out she made clothes.
Yes, you are bitter about that.
Bitter.
It was a bit of a letdown. I'll give you that.
It was. So Carl and Sophia have like a date or something, watching Walkers at the Fence.
Well, I guess you don't have the generator working yet, so there's your entertainment.
Yeah, it was a little strange. And Carol and Lori have yet another super boring conversation about the fact that they used to quilt and scrapbook prior to the apocalypse.
Yes. Yeah, and Carol throws in knitting, which, was kind of a sore spot for me, because the old Nurture and Support podcast, for those of you who don't know, we're in the hobby category on iTunes, and we regularly get our butt kicked by knitting podcasts on a regular basis, and I'm bitter about that. But
Bitter.
Bitter. But so Carol thought, oh, knitting would be fun. Whatever, Carol.
Yeah, Carol, not my favorite in the comic already, really starts to lose ground quickly. Like even more so as we go through this next 4.
Yeah, there's character development, but not in a good way.
I know. I really love Carol on the show. She's one of my favorites. This one, so not. And basically, there's a lot of flipping out about what Rick did to Alan. Everybody's a little crazed and upset and freaked out. And Michonne and Tyrese play basketball.
Yes, they do. And Carol caught the game. She was on a bad path anyway.
Caught Tyrese on the receiving end.
Yes, she did. Yeah, so this is one of the differences. So there's a lot, obviously, between Carol, TV Carol, and comic Carol.
Correct.
TV Michonne and comic, and TV Tyrese and kind of thing. There's pretty big difference between all 3 of these characters, because the Michonne in the comic is a little more assertive on the affection front, and than in the TV show. And the Tyrese, I didn't want to go there. I established that last episode that this is like awesome, cool Tyrese in the comic, and it's just been kind of adrift Tyrese in the TV show.
Right. And we have more Maggie and Glenn bunny rabbiting around the prison.
Yep.
For lack of a better term. They're playing basketball as well.
That's right. A lot of basketball going on. That gym, by the way, that seems to be the place. It's the Playboy Grotto of the prison. that basketball court.
Yeah. It's a busy place.
And then at the tail end of 21, we've got Michonne doing a little bit of the self-talk.
Yeah.
Talking to herself.
Yeah, which she gets busted at and then flips out at Andrea for busting her. Andrea's like, are you talking to yourself? I am not.
Go make some clothes.
Go call a meeting about making clothes. And then we move on from there with Tyrese and Carol breaking up in bed. She boots him out. And Herschel sorta gives his blessing to Maggie and Glenn. Sort of.
Yeah. Front-facing clothes in these panels.
Yeah. There is so he basically says like I know you love him, and if you could get married you would, so all right. Okay, thanks, Daddy.
Yes.
We find out that Rick's hand is kind of permanently mangled. He's got like one finger that won't bend, and another one's all like twisted and wonking up from when he beat the snot out of
the accountant.
Yes, Thomas. Yeah. And so Carol goes and she cries all over Rick about her breakup. Because, I don't know. That's what she does. And, I don't want to say, is that where she kisses him?
I think that is, that's coming up.
Okay.
I think that's coming up. But
so, spoiler.
She said, yeah, there's going to be a Rick kiss. It's not going to be in the basketball court, though. This was just more hugging him and expressing appreciation for standing up for her to Tyrese.
Oh, that's right. Okay, all right. So yeah, so there's all kinds of like kind of drama that breaks out, and Michonne and Tyrese get on. And then Rick and Tyrese kind of go to the mattresses a bit over what exactly?
Well, because we missed that kind of key thing,
Yeah.
which is that after Carol booted Tyrese out, her next logical step was to cut her wrists in front of Sophia.
Yeah.
And apparently a poor wrist cutting job, but
It's a cry for help.
yeah, so it's just, I mean, this character was kind of all over.
Poor choice.
Yeah, bad choice. But couldn't you send Sophia to go watch Zombies with Carl or something? You don't really think having her in the room was a great idea because she's all huddled in the corner.
Right.
And they gotta so that happened, and that's not good.
And when Rick sees it, he goes completely bunkers on Tyrese, and like I said, and they go toe to toe. Mano.
Yeah, because it's kind of Rick saying, "You might as well cut her wrist yourself," blah blah blah, and Tyrese, "Well, you shot Dexter," blah blah blah. And then Rick brings up Chris, and so they're going back and forth on who's the bigger murderer.
You're worse than I am. No, you're worse than I am.
Way worse.
Yeah.
That eventually ends up with Rick taking a fall off the balcony of the prison, which I gotta imagine hurt.
Yeah.
Because that looked like a pretty good distance, and that's not a padded floor.
No.
And he kind of, Tyrese didn't push him over. They had been scuffling, but then Rick kind of passed out and went over. And then Lori comes out. Thank God. The voice of reason. Lori comes out to check on Rick.
Yeah. I don't know that I would ever refer to her as the voice of reason, but I'll follow you wherever you're going.
I was sarcastic.
All right.
But and then during all this hubbub, we find out we're down a character.
Yes. Because Andrea comes out and starts yelling at Alan's dead.
So what do you do when somebody dies?
Yeah, and then basically, and I'm not entirely sure what the intent was, but we have a closing on that one of Rick with the gun in his hand that had gone off, and I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's passing. I guess he kills Alan and he passes out.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do after you fall off the balcony.
And you hit your head really hard. There's a really great cover, though. I want to say there's a really great cover, number 24, of Rick being completely psycho.
Teeth-gritting, crazy Rick. Which is, by the way, I believe, oh gosh, I'm not going to remember this, Tony Moore. So okay. Tony Moore, who was the original, did the covers and the artwork originally through episode 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was replaced by Charlie Adlar.
Okay.
Adlar, and but he kept doing covers, and 24 was his last cover.
Okay.
Starting with 25, Charlie takes on all the duties. So
cathartic, perhaps, given the look on Rick's face.
Yes, this was kind of like, I'll finish strong here. But yeah, that is one unhappy-looking Rick. Teeth-gritted, crazed look.
Yeah, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy shining type Rick.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a very dark look for him.
He goes crazier a lot different ways in the comic than in although he's troubled. He's troubled in the TV series too.
He's troubled, and Rick does Andrew Lincoln does a good job of playing someone who is troubled and perhaps having issues with reality at some point or another, but he doesn't ever look nearly quite as crazed as he does in the comic. And I don't know if that's because they can sort of, exaggerate some features in order to really drive the point home that he's no longer behind there at all. And Andrew Lincoln is a good actor, but he's also, still a guy. And this is a character that's drawn well, but still, they have the ability to sort of suck the life out of his eyes really well.
Yeah, and if Andrew Lincoln tried to match that pose, we'd laugh.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it'd be very hard to, but what works perfect in the comic to convey it, he conveys with a little more subtlety,
right,
in the show,
right,
and motion. He gets to use motion, which is an edge, I think. So.
So yeah, Carol watches over Rick, who wakes up after like 26 hours of sleep, and he wakes up cracking wise.
Yeah, making zombie jokes.
Although he does recognize the fact that hey, I just almost tried to kill my best friend, and that's probably in poor taste. Carol, on the other hand, doesn't see it that way. She's very sort of, oh, it's okay.
You're so funny and attractive.
I love you. I mean, I didn't say that. Yeah. She doesn't say that, but she does try and kiss him.
Successfully, I believe. Actually, she does actually.
Yeah.
Does kiss him, and then, and I guess it makes sense. In a way, but this whole the dialogue post kiss of, oh, don't worry, Rick, I'll never tell Lori we kissed, and Rick's like, well, I'm gonna tell Lori, and I'm just like, every once in a while, it might be better just to kind of let's just step away from that, shall we? There's no need to talk of it further, because I can't imagine, again, Lori, the pillar of reason. I just don't think you feed her any reason to get more wacky, but
yeah, she's already sort of off kilter, but I can understand as a really honest guy, which Rick is. You wouldn't want to keep something like that, but I think that the part that sort of disconcerts him a little bit is, and one of the reasons that he might want to tell Lori is because she just planted one on him, and he didn't kiss her, and yet she's saying, I won't talk about what happened between us, like, in this really sort of unhinged, crazy way, as though he might have done something and he didn't. So perhaps you might want to head that horse off at the pass and not let it go any further.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, yeah, but she's low on blood. She dropped some recently. She's probably not has all of her faculties either. She's randomly kissing people. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think there's a good way to come out of this, because Carol's clearly become
bonkers,
a problem. Yes.
Crazy.
Yes.
Unhinged, berserk, bananas.
Yep. And then, so she kissed him, and that was back for the standing up for me thing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then after Rick's little nap, they kind of fill him in to say, because the pressure had been so high on him, they revised the leadership approach, and there's going to be a committee consisting of, if I'm correct, Tyrese, Dale, Rick, and Herschel.
Yeah.
So I see multiple problems with this committee.
Boo!
Well, I do. I see. No, I'm not a pun. I see problems. These are legit. First problem I see is if you're going to create a committee, you make a committee who, if they're going to vote on stuff, you don't have 4. You have 3 or you have 5.
Right.
Because that's a problem.
Right.
And they address it in the comics some, but it underrepresents a gender fairly significantly in the prison. And also an ethnic group as well. you
Yes.
know, so I guess we got Tyrese's on there, so there's a minor bit of diversity, but
But I have to say I wasn't. I mean, yes, I read the names of the four guys, and I booed and hissed, and then I booed and hissed a lot louder when we got the reasoning
yeah.
of what did he say? He says that the women basically, I think they just want to be protected.
Yeah, the women folk think this is better. It's basically, and it was that, and then Glenn got kind of lumped in with them, and Glenn too.
Yeah.
He's kind of the same way. He's like, yeah, they just want to, yeah. It was like, oh, they're all cool. They're like, oh, I'm glad Donna didn't hear about this. She wasn't around to hear about it. She's been a real pain in the butt about it. But but then you've got to go back and look at if you are. So Jeans and I are both from Illinois, so we both know a lot about limited choices when it comes to governing. we have lived this environment for some times that sometimes you've got to make a choice and there's not much of a choice to make. But so Carol's probably not a strong candidate to be the senator of Crazyland. Lori, not so much.
No.
And then there's going to be, this kind of clothes-making legislative thrust from Andrea, where she's going to say, we need to talk about clothes more as a committee.
Home economics for everybody.
That's right. So it's the Jort Amendment and those types of things that you bring into play. But Maggie would be good. I mean, and younger, I think that's a good thing to kind of have in the mix too.
Right. I agree, and I think, I mean, to some degree, Lori certainly has opinions.
Oh, indeed. Yeah.
And it would almost be better to have her on the committee and let her have her say than just P&M at everybody afterwards all the time.
Yeah, but you got Rick and Lori, kind of a voting block.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But yeah, it was interesting. One, they didn't, how the representation played out, and then two, well, this is kind of what they wanted.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
No, and he's sort of fine with it, although he does amend his motto.
Yeah. Yeah, which lasted about three editions. Three issues.
Yeah. You kill, you die turns into you kill, you live. So,
which is a pretty big shift.
It's a complete 180, a bit like Herschel's head and body in that one frame.
It was foreshadowing. That's what it was. It was Kirkman playing with us. Yes. And then, and so this, when we kind of, timelines are a little different here.
Right.
I think because, well, no, but the committee came into place in the prison.
It did.
As well, and many of the same representatives, but I think here we had, I think in the television show, Daryl was on the committee, representing Trailer Park Yadnia, wherever, the great state of Trailer Park, and maybe Michelle was on too.
I don't think it was. Anyway.
You don't think it was what?
I'm gonna drop that there, and let it lie.
Okay.
And we got a really, despite the fact that Rick is no longer in charge, we are treated to a very lengthy, somewhat political sounding diatribe of we're all doomed.
Yeah. And you think I'm crazy, and you're probably right. and that's where he name checks the series and actually finishes with the big "We are the Walking Dead."
Dun dun dun.
Last frame. So.
It was awesome. Yeah,
it was good. It's fun. You continue. You're starting to see some character. The Rick tension on the Rick thing, the dynamic between Rick and Tyrese building up. Carol going the Carol way, the comic Carol way.
The comic Carol way, because there's such extremes. Although I have to say, I don't appreciate the Carol in the comic at all, but it does make me appreciate the one in the show even more. I mean, I already like her, but it really makes me very grateful watching the show because she would make me insane.
Yeah, and I have a few more thoughts that I'll share for subsequent issues when there's a few more Carol moments. We can talk a little more.
She's got some more gems coming yet. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, she does. So I will reserve the right to comment further at that time.
All right. Sounds good. Is there now? I mean, now we watched the sort of bromance break apart fairly quickly, and I realize that this is probably just a mechanism to throw a little bit of drama in and things like that. I just don't see that getting as out of hand as it did. Particularly because they both have blood on their hands. Period. End of story. And so does Maggie. And so, and so it just seems like it blew up. Like, well, that escalated quickly. Sort of like.
Yes, it did.
Oh.
Yeah, and I just think and so does Carl, by the way. Carl has blood on his hands.
Yes, he does.
So there's a pretty good.
And they all left Jim out in the woods, so there's that.
Andrea's just got prison garments on her hands, just sewing stuff on her hands.
That's right.
Yeah, it did escalate, but it just seems like everybody's that much closer to cracking in the comic, which is not implausible given the circumstances. I think if you have dead people walking around, want to eat you and bite you all the time, you might get a little tense. I can see that. So.
I was a little surprised at just how upset Rick got over Carol at Tyrese.
Yeah, blaming him repeatedly.
Yeah, just really kind of out of hand a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, and kind of, and also in there was, and I think it was in this part of the stream. I can't remember. Somewhere in there it was, Rick was talking about what a close friend he was with Alan.
Yeah.
There's at least some mention, which I'm trying to piece that together because I never really saw buddying between, because Rick showed up. I don't know. I didn't. So that seemed a little quirky, but yeah, I don't know why he was so hung up on the Carol thing.
You cannot, because there was none. That's why. I tell you right now, you can't, because Alan barely spoke until his wife died, and even then, it was just sort of woe is me. The dogs are in here. What were we saying?
We were talking about Alan and Rick's alleged friendship.
So you can't, because there was none.
Nope.
There was no relationship, but they never showed them like hanging out like Tyrese and Rick, ever.
I mean, more quality time with Shane. Shane was trying to kill him.
That is true. They went hunting.
That's right.
Yeah, it's very strange, I thought, as well. But, I suppose there's lots of things that have to happen off comic. I mean, you have to assume that they have lives, and I mean, we certainly hear enough boring talk out of Lori to try and demonstrate the fact that there are some things that need to go on in day-to-day life. So it's not impossible to draw that as a conclusion, but there's no evidence of it.
Yeah, and I expect we'd probably be complaining if there were 3 or 4 panels of Rick and Alan playing Yahtzee.
I would. I'd be complaining if that was a truth.
Exchanging, pleasantry. Oh, buddy pal, good roll there. And I think they'd play Yahtzee. If there was a game they'd be playing, I think it'd be Yahtzee.
Let's play 2-man solitaire. Yeah.
That's right. War.
War. There you go. All right. Oh man. So, yeah. So, and I think as far as the comic goes, I think things move along at sort of a different clip in the prison than they do on the show. And I don't know if that's just because there's different drama there than on the show, because it's, there's so many differences at this point between what happens, on the Walking Dead show than there is in the comic. Not just with characters, but just the plot starts to really sort of break apart a little bit as well.
Yeah, and we had that huge farm bubble in the television show that extended far longer
Yes.
than which kind of ate into prison time, I think, a little bit.
It did, and they did, and they showed, Rick farming really with his beans and stuff like that. In 24, there was a panel of everybody seeding. At some point, Axel, which we didn't mention because it just wasn't really that important. Axel learns to plow.
That's right. And he and Herschel bond a little bit, sort of.
Yeah.
Much. He's kind of.
Yeah. And then they show everybody sort of sowing seeds. So there's pieces of that do link it together, but it's really much more Rick-centric in the show. It's not everybody, pitching in to plant a garden and help them survive. It's really more sort of Rick becomes a farmer, decides he doesn't want to be the leader anymore.
Buries his guns. Just this whole, it's another, I don't know. It's like,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
And it's also, it's sort of times like this in the comic that I start to really miss Dale. Or not Dale, Daryl. Oh, that was bad. Oh, so bad. Bad.
Oh, now the truth comes out.
No, I don't miss Dale with the fisherman hat in the show. I'm fine. I'm sort of fine that he's gone. But I do miss Daryl in the comic because I think he would be a fun character. I think he would add a little bit of levity to some of the things that go on. Because he's such a cool guy, and there's not a whole lot of that goes on. I think they try and bring in some levity, like the discussions about the scrapbooking and the knitting that you hate so much. But
legitimately, I have a legitimate hatred of knitting. Don't demean my hatred of knitting. It's justified.
And I think they try and bring some of that in, sort of lighten it up periodically. Perhaps that was what was intended behind, Andrea's clothing needing, but it doesn't do it for me. I need someone to start cracking jokes, sarcastically, a little bit of dry humor to break it up a little bit because it's getting a little intense. And Daryl sort of is good at that kind of thing, I think.
And he's good at calling BS.
Yeah, he's good at calling observations correctly, usually in some type of sarcastic manner.
Yep. Yeah, it's in a Dixonian way.
As only a Dixon can. Yeah.
That's right.
So, all right. So, unless there's anything you want to mention.
Nope.
All right.
Boo knitting. Boo knitting.
So we're going to do 26 through, 25 through 20.
25
Math is hard.
I know, I got to get 25, 26, 27, 28. 28.
Okay.
So.
We'll do through 28 in the next episode.
Since this went so smoothly.
So bad. Oh, I know. Sorry.
We get there.
Oh, edit. Okay.
Maybe that's the title.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.